consider the two big predictors of well-being for a man, getting a job and getting a wife. In the past, you were kind of guaranteed those two, but now, without socially enforced monogamy and with the kind of shift from a brawn-based economy to a brain-based economy, uh, those two, a job and a wife, are no guarantee for a man. And we can frame this as, oh, fragile men and their egos, and don't you know nobody's owed anything. But they really are threatened in this regard because they have a lot to lose. And I've never advocated, and I hate having to constantly verify this because it should go without saying. I've never advocated for that any man is entitled to a woman. I make that very clear in my article and every podcast I've ever appeared on. But it feels like that's the first thing you have to kind of preface any discussion about incels with is, yes, we know nobody is entitled to sex, of course. However, this kind of incel problem, I don't think it's great news for women either, because it means there are less and less men that they want, and they're kind of competing for a more narrow selection of men, and that might kind of not make them feel too good either.
What advice would you give to those on the kind of periphery of the incel community who do feel hopeless, but at the same time we don't want them necessarily to go down this route of embracing a fairly toxic ideology? What should they do instead, would you say?
I would say still, as I said, I would advocate the self-development kind of route. But to be honest, I think I would focus more on what we could do as a society to make that challenge, to make embracing that challenge a little bit easier for them. Because right now it's an easy decision for them to embrace the victimhood status and kind of fester in the online communities. If we made the kind of the incentive to go out and try and build yourself up, that would be so much more important. And there's so many reasons why we think we see incels with scorn. I mean, so much of male identity is kind of wrapped up in this idea of competency and agency, and the incel kind of admission of incompetence is kind of jarring to us as a society, and we kind of find it repugnant. I think actually you had a really good quote that I pointed to in my article about why we kind of look down on incels so much, and why we judge them, and how men and women judge them very differently. But as soon as you tie self-development with the explicit goal of attracting women, it somehow gets framed as very misogynistic. And I mean, let's face it, attracting women has been a pretty big motivator for most people ever. So, I mean, I don't get the inherent link with misogyny in terms of, developing yourself. You can imagine how exasperating it is for an incel to be held in scorn for your innate inability to kind of attract women, but also then scorned for trying to game the system or develop yourself and learn how to attract women.